Hi to everybody, it's a pleasure to be here. So today we are going to talk about what and when governance breaks at scale. I acted as an advisor for many large organizations in the data management space, and I always seen the same patterns recurring over and over. So I prepare a set of example of when the governance is breaching. The first one, it's very actual. Most of the organization are trying to achieve the talk with your data or chat with your data use case. So how do we enable business to talk with the data, with structured data, with the data warehouse, data lake, or data products, whatever it is. But the problem is that our data has a lot of ambiguity inside it. Until we don't remove the ambiguity from the data, it means that we are able to make the data fully intelligible for human, but also for AI. It will not be possible to achieve such scenario. We did some tests with increasingly bigger database, so 10 tables, 100 tables, 1,000 tables, and the ambiguity that you can have across 1,000 tables, it's incredible. It's not really possible right now. Another pattern is the missing documentation on the data catalog. How many of you can say that the data catalog is fully documented, 100% documented? There is always a residual part of an undocumented data set. And this is an issue because, again, if you want to have AI going through the data catalog and do reasoning, but then if you have 10% of that asset not documented, what the AI will do with those? It will guess, simply. Data duplication. I saw your interesting presentation about master data management and so on. So we have different kind of data duplication. So we have data duplication in terms of rows duplicated in the same data set, but also we have the same data set duplicated across multiple platforms. I have a version of the data set in Cloudera on-premise, the other one on Databricks, then I copy in SAP because I need to do something specific. So this overlap of datasets is creating, again, ambiguity and problems and duplicated cost. So yeah, that's another recurring pattern in large organizations. Data quality as well. The main problem of data quality is how do we make it pervasive in our organization. It's not a problem of tool. No, you can pick up whatever tool you want in data quality. It's a problem of making this, let's say, within your change management process. So we need to have people defining the data quality controls. If people don't define data quality controls, we will never have monitoring. So that's another recurring issue. Data protection as well. No, we can build guidelines. Okay, if the data is sensitive, you need to mask it. If I tag the data set in a certain way, you need to manage permission with two-step approvals. Now we can create processes on top of it, but then how do we guarantee that these processes, these guidelines will be applied on every single data set we put in production? That's a problem. So why nobody succeed in data management and governance? Let's say fully succeed. There are different shades of gray of success in data management, but honestly, if I ask to all my customers how much they are successful in data governance, nobody is 100% fully satisfied. To me, going through exact 15 years of consulting, the main issue is in how we set up governance process. So basically, governance is an after-the-fact process that observes what is already happening in the data, and it's completely disconnected from change management. It means that there are different teams, data governance team, data engineer teams, and meanwhile, people are building, the governance team try to fix things and document and apply data quality and apply data protection and so on. But there is a disconnection. They are not part of the same change management life cycle. I can do some example. So we have those people that are coding and doing a use case, implementing use case. Then at certain point, when the code is fine, they publish their data pipeline, their tables in Databricks or Snowflake or whatever it is. And then you have the data catalog that detect that new table appeared, and now you have to do the metadata curation. This is fine when the speed of change management is not huge. But basically, when until a certain pace, you can keep this pace. Meanwhile, people are implementing, then you have another team doing the documentation. But when you are at large scale, the risk is that the speed of change management is increasing. You have multiple domains, multiple business units doing change management, but you have still the same speed and capacity on the governance side. So after a while, the governance and the data catalog will be out of date. Okay, this is why you have a percentage of your data set that is not fully documented, because there are people that are, in the meantime, you are curating and fixing a bunch of a perimeter of data. There is another team or multiple teams that are generating new data. And I think this can only go worse, because with AI, that now is empowering data engineer, data scientist, everybody now is coding, basically. So the speed of change management, the speed of people putting use case in production will increase. But on the other side, we have always the same speed in doing the metadata curation. So the gap between what is present in the data management platform, and what is present in the data catalog can only go, let's say, on the wrong way. Okay. So in the IT in general, there is a constant trade-off between autonomy and governance. If you want to have full governance, you need to constrain the autonomy of people. You need to set up a invasive process where people continuously need to have an approval to do something. They need to ask for a review. They need to go through a fragmented process. So when you enhance too much the governance, you slow down the change management and the autonomy of people. If you provide too much autonomy to the people, you will fold on governance. I don't know how many people went through the self-service BI stuff. No? So, okay, this is ClickView, do whatever you want. And then after 3 years, you discover that people built entire ecosystem that are totally ungoverned. No? Because too much autonomy has been provided without the proper counterbalance, the proper counter control in terms of standards, compliance, risk management, and whatever. So we need to, I think, in general, in data management, if we want to sustain the speed of change management, we need to find another way of doing things. This is where in the last 30 years we moved around without finding the right sweet spot. I think this is the data warehouse, fully centralized, fully governed, but the speed of change is completely slow. Now, if you want to modify a feed, you need to go through an impact analysis that will require 2 years. Then we moved into complete shadow IT with the self-service BI. That does not work as well. Then we go back in multi-tech silos. Okay, every department has its own data platform and they will govern by themselves, but you end up with the duplication and other problems. So we need to move into another sweet spot where we can achieve better compliance and governance, and at the same time, we provide a decent freedom to operate and evolve systems. And also we achieve a good fast time to market, because organizations need to move faster and faster. And this AI is putting a lot of pressure on it. So elaborating on this concept, which are the elements that need to be governed, what we need to take care of if we want to establish this sweet spot. I think that we need to put attention on global interest. So in this diagram, you have the freedom to operate here and the governance on the other side. So whenever there is some element that is a global interest, like, okay, semantic interoperability is a global interest because everybody wants to join the data from other departments. Technical interoperability is also another global interest, because the data need to join, but also technologically speaking, they need to join. Security, cost, and whatever. So let's see how we can move in another direction to make data management scale. So first of all, in my opinion, we need to unify the change management lifecycle. So it means that when we change something, we need to do it in one place with one single change management lifecycle, with one team unified. It means that when you change something, you need to change at the same time the software, the information model, the business metadata, the documentation. So everything is part of a data initiative, need to be part of the change management. This is the change management unit. And to me, the only place where this could happen is the software stack. Why? Because we have an industry, the software engineering industry, that solved this problem of change management 20 years ago with the DevOps approach. So adopting one single source of truth, that is Git, and the DevOps approach, that is creating a repeatable process to manage any kind of change that we need to apply. We need to apply change to the information model, go through the DevOps. You need to change something in the documentation or in the business metadata, go through DevOps, okay? So the next step is to apply controls, because just changing the tool and just changing the place where people act is not solving anything. I don't know how many times it happened to you that you change the tool thinking to resolve problems, but then nothing changed in the reality, because you need to establish boundaries and guardrails. So in the DevOps lifecycle, in the CI/CD, you have a hook where you can inspect everything. Everything goes in production, you can inspect. So the next step is to have governance policies that can assess code, information model, metadata, documentation, if they are consistent, okay? You add a column in the information model, it needs to be reflected in the code, it needs to be reflected in the metadata, and also in the documentation. If I want to add a column into a table, I need to modify the data pipeline, I need to modify the documentation, I need to modify everything is related to that unit of change. So here we have policies that can inspect the change before it happens, because here we don't have data, we have only information. Software is text, basically. So here we have a place where we can enforce things before they happen, not after, okay? Another element to add on top is an integrated lifecycle management. So it's not sufficient to manage everything as code. You need to have a lifecycle. You need to have approval step in some case. You need to have review processes. You need to have different lifecycle. And if you want to do it properly, you also need to manage the project. So how are you planning to build a new use case? How are you implementing? How you are going to operate? So this is the full life cycle of the project or product that you want to have. And so basically the life cycle will provide guidance to people to direct them in the right direction, to do the things in the proper way with the right order. Then you will have engineering standard that will help people to do authoring of these elements in the proper way. So if you are building a data pipeline, you need to do it in a certain way. If you are documenting metadata, you need to do it in a certain way. And then we have policy that are going to check if what has been done properly and according with all the rules of the company. The missing part that maybe someone is thinking is, okay, but I cannot ask to governance people and business people to go in Git and modify YAML file or documentation in Markdown or whatever. And that's true. You cannot ask that. So what we need is a two-level experience to make people with different skills collaborate in the same process. So you will have a code-first experience for technicians, for developers, that will define the software, the data pipeline, maybe they will define some part of the data contract. But then at the same time, you will have a UI-first experience for people that are not tech guys, so they can, okay, thank you. So more business-oriented people that can review business terms, they can review schemas, they can review documentation. But in the end, what they are authoring here is going into Git. So we can have this flow and this process that I described. And in the era of AI, it's also important that we can leverage this AI. So it's really important that everybody in the organization can leverage AI to generate code faster, generate metadata faster, generate documentation faster. So everything is included in the change management need to be generated at fastest pace. And we know how good this generative AI is in generating code, software, and text. No, it's definitely more good in doing this than operating in single fields in a UI. So this generation cannot be unsupervised. So that's why we need to have templates, policies, skills that are guiding this generation in the proper way. This is the generative AI loop that I foresee for the future. So an agent that is able to generate software documentation, information model, metadata, keeping them synchronized. Then what is generated will be tested against policies that are defining the rules of the game. And this feedback will go back to the agent. So the agent will learn how to fix data contract, how to fix business term based on the feedback coming from the rules. Good. So I talk a bit about computational policies. I want to show you what these computational policies are. The name is quite explicative, but yeah, we are used to work with guidelines in governance. We create a Word, a PowerPoint, or an Excel checklist, whatever it is. But yeah, the guidelines cannot scale across, let's say, 20, 30, 100 people working with data. Someone will forget about guidelines. So the way we are solving this is creating a set of policies that are fully codified, so they are executable, and this policy will inspect what has been produced by the change management in the CI/CD. Typically, every organization has a standard CI/CD managed by the IT, where every single release in production needs to go through for security reason, for compliance and whatever. So that's a very good hook where you can hook the governance check as well, instead of doing it ex post. And this is the way it changed the way of working of governance team. So governance team, instead of doing a huge work of evangelization, producing guidelines, explaining what the new regulation is requiring right now, explaining to everybody in the organization, and you will forget someone for sure. So right now there is a huge effort in evangelization, and then a huge effort in doing metadata operation and check also if people are doing the right things. So because you cannot trust people, not because they are evil, but because people can do mistakes. So in the other way, instead, the governance team will codify, will create enforceable policies, and this policy will do the job in the end. So if we want to operate data products, but also other things at scale in an organization, we need to have these elements. So we need to have a unified change management to keep things with consistency. We need to leverage AI, not only to accelerate the coding, but to accelerate the full process. So the coding, the metadata management, the data quality, everything. Otherwise, some part will fall behind. We need to have engineering standards. So this is the real job, to define engineering standards so people can create things in the proper way. And we need to apply a governance shift-left approach. Shift-left means that we shift the governance duties into the developer lifecycle, into the change management lifecycle, so that it can become more effective.